Okay, we're gonna get into this unboxing, and I guess it'll end up being some kind of review. Uh, this is Transformers Studio Series from the Transformer the movie Thundercracker. I suppose you could say it's also from the TV show as well. But yeah, I think I've actually had this for a while. I've got this, pre-ordered it, and it's supposed to be in March, I think originally, and then all of a sudden it just started coming out earlier, like I think in January, if I recall, fairly early, mid-January, I think. So I had this, and then also the two Combaticons, which I already did a video of already. But I've just been holding off on this to mainly, I don't know, I was busy. Second, I have like the limited room that I have in my current display shelf for these things was occupied with a bunch of the I guess mainly these are Warfare, Cybertron, some, so they call them Siege too. There's another name for them, but but you know, this older style of Seekers, and so I didn't have any place to put it, and I was debating whether I wanted to actually get this because I had just completed having the original six Seekers that, you know, when I say original, like from G1 to include Starscream, Thundercracker, Skywarp, of course, and then the Conehead ones, which were Ramjet, Dirge, and Thrust. And Thrust finally just came back and, you know, they decided to do another run. And I said, all right, cool. And then once they did that, then this was shortly announced. Ah, damn it. And I was like, okay, do I really need to get this one now? Because these were pretty cool, actually. And we'll do a comparison. And I do believe that there are some little bit of setbacks to this one. Although overall, I think the look is very G1 cartoon, a lot more than this. And we'll get into the differences. But yeah. So I guess this was probably when they were on board Astro Train after they got defeated. Because I think they look a little bit battered. You can see some kind of cracking in their armor up here, and yeah, most likely this is before they got tossed out into open space before being dead weight. And so here we go. I think, yeah, I do appreciate this. This looks like a really, like, there's been a couple of masterpiece Transformers. I used to have like the original set where they had like the wings would kind of come off the back here, and it wasn't exactly completely G1, the first one. It was nice in detail, but they had a lot of what people would call kibble, and I thought that was kind of cool. It looked very, you know, um, just had all these extra details, you know, and thought all these wings and panels coming off of it looked kind of cool. But eventually they redid the mold and everything and made it more cartoon accurate, and it's really cool the way they did with them. But I never got around to getting that last generation of masterpiece series that were more closely G1 cartoon looking and designed. I was going to just go get with Skywalker because he was my favorite character. This was my first Seeker when I got it back in the 80s. And I always liked the black and purple and silver scheme that he had, and the fact that, you know, he can teleport as one of his special skills. So, anyways, if I was going to get one, it would have been Skywarp, and I was like, okay, that's all I need, just one Seeker. Although I had these three originally as masterpiece in the old configuration, and actually there was like a version 2. They had the original one, and then later on they tweaked something with still the design was a little bit different. I think they did something different with the feet or the legs that made it stand a little bit better, or I don't know, it's just a little bit better than the original, which originally I had. Yeah, anyways, and I never got the three Seekers, the Conehead ones after that came a bit later. I had started to like, okay, I got to a point where I had to sell a bunch of toys. I was making a change in life, so I was like, all right, I had my fun, I'm gonna sell it. But now I'm back several years later, and here we go. And I'm gonna cut it here, and I'm just gonna unbox it. And don't need to really show you what's inside. There's probably instructions, and you can see extra parts back here, the extra wings that you might have seen other videos. You have to, I think you have to do a little bit of construction of builds to make the other parts. Like I think the wingtips, I think you need to add them because it wouldn't fit in here. They might be a little bit long, but I'll get into that and just show you the robot as soon as I get it out of the box and get it all set up. All right, so here we go. Transformed it into robot. We'll start off as robot, obviously, as you see out the box, but wanted to start off in plane mode. I'm usually only going to do this in one direction. Just need to transform it back, just reverse the order, I guess. Yeah, this looks really good in the jet mode. And you'll find that as I transform it back. My concerns about this were legit. Like there are some parts that are a bit more flimsier than this version as you're playing and transforming. I'd say the feet kind of come off. There's like these pieces in here can kind of come off too. They're on these little hinges, and what else can come off? I thought there was one other thing, but those are the main things that seem to repeatedly kind of just wiggle themselves out. There's not the tightest. I mean, they're tight, but then just the slightest like twist on the pieces, it could dislodge and pop off. So this you'll see in a moment. So that's one thing that I noticed that people have done when have come across when they were messing around with this, and you don't get that with this. This is also more of a parts former in a way compared to this. You have options, but they both have their pros and cons, and I can see the merits of owning either one. But I'd say in general, this looks more like an F-15 as it's supposed to. Mainly, I like the fact that they've returned back to these jet nozzles at the rear here, which is how they should be, and they kind of went back to sort of the way the old feet were designed, and go back. I'd say the canopy, I'll compare it to that one in a second, and the canopy also is more, I'd say, looks more accurate to an F-15. The nose does seem a little bit on the long side for an F-15, but if I can recall. And of course, there's some differences, obviously, on the bottom. That's not quite F-15. And we compare it to this, size-wise, they are pretty darn close. You can see, I can't say that the one wingspan is larger than the other. Looking from top to bottom, I think this is longer by the nose. You know, if I'm putting it right, like the farthest part back, the tail versus, I guess, the jet nozzles or something. Okay, let me make sure that's in. It looks like that popped out, so I noticed that one seemed to be a little bit extended than the other. But anyways, so that's where you got. The engines in the back here are more prominent versus these are more flat in the back. Weapons are about the same, the guns on the wings. The shaping, these are angled down more, but I suppose that kind of plays into the robot mode, because if you notice that, you know, F-15 should be actually kind of like this, they're very straight on top, and then it angles down here, and that's how the old G1 toys were. But then, you know, when you transform, and that's how the F-15 should be, but when you transform to robot, you'll notice that these parts tend to curve forward actually on the shoulders when you see them transformed. And I think they're trying to do a slight compromise here to angle it slightly forward, but not, they can't go all the way, because it ends up looking very straight on this side, and then it looks like it curves forward like that on the back side when they're in robot mode. But yeah, that's another thing. Obviously there's a difference in color. This is more brighter blue, more true blue, and I don't think my camera's doing it justice in showing the difference here. This actually, outside of the camera, this actually looks more, it's got a hint of green in it, I'd say. It looks almost like a dark teal or aqua blue. That's what I'd say. Again, this canopy isn't necessarily accurate, I don't think, to what an F-15 cockpit window looks like. This is not 100% either, but This is a bit longer than it should be, and there's more segments than I think the actual F15 is. This is more simplified like that. Other thing too is some people complain that on this one, there's nothing in the middle here. I mean, there's nothing in the middle of this guy either. It's just have this piece that covers across the chest and I guess covers part of the windshield when you do that. But this is more accurate, whereas you should see more of the windshield on the front of the chest when he's transformed. You don't have that bottom piece here, which I believe the original G1 toys were like this too. It was just kind of hollow here. It's just, well, nothing you can do about it. This is the best angle on top anyways, but I'm not too bothered by that, to be honest. I do like the fact that this does come with a retractable front landing gear, and there is no rear one. The old ones used to have, I believe, roller wheels on the back here. Well, these wouldn't be angled like this. It'd be actually angled in more, and then like it'd be like a set of wheels, I think, in the bottom. That would be. These toes were angled up more. That, I guess, ball of the foot would be down here with some rollers, if I recall correctly, on the G1 toys. But this one is basically it's the landing gear. So when you put it down, it's pretty flat, but it's resting on the wheel here and on the feet here. Versus this does not have any landing gears, and it has this weird. This is the thing that connects this piece when you're transforming it, and it's just a little bit on. You can see part of the head too, so it doesn't clean up quite as well as this one here. So I'm gonna just put this back in. You don't really have to have it up. It actually sits, you know, it's just angled marginally downwards, but otherwise you can just kind of have it in flight mode on a tabletop without having the landing gear. This will always be in flight mode, and it's just kind of, you can see this part is just, it's gonna angle down because this is the lowest part and this comes up higher, so when you land it, it's going to be kind of like that, and maybe you can kind of see it here. But anyways, I like the color. This definitely looks more accurate to what it is. And also talking about the more accuracy of the fighter, these are like not realistic F-15 jet nozzles in the rear. This is much closer to what it should be, just round, cylindrical like this. These look like something out of Ace Combat games where they take realistic planes, and some are modeled very realistic, and then they do have some versions where they make it more futuristic and kind of like sci-fi, and they just kind of mess around. I think they have a version of the F-15 that have like these kind of flatter nozzles, which is kind of more modern, like the Raptor, or the maybe even the Joint Strike Fighter. That is it, the F-35? I forget the exact number. It's been a while. And even like the 5th generation like fighters from like China or something, they have like these, and so it's like advanced, like what do you call it, thrust vectoring. So they can twist, they can angle, but this one can't do that, but they would can both angle up or down. The F-22 Raptor can do that too, and then can do this and that. So it allows them to actually bank and dive and twist and turn a lot quicker and more agile because of the way the thrusters can be vectored and angled off. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of cool. It gives it a modern look, but it's not what I'm used to and what it should be for this G1 version of the F-15 and the figure itself. On the other Seekers, like Ramjet, Thrust, and Dirge, those are completely fictional planes anyway. So I don't mind these kind of thrusters on those as on those other Seekers, because they kind of work. I mean, you know, though they should be like this too, as you're going with the G1 toy and the original design. They should be like just like these kind of things, right? It's just a modified F-15 with different wings. But you know, because those are not completely fictional planes, all three of them, the Seekers, the Conehead ones, I can allow for this kind of feat, but ultimately this is better if we can keep it looking how it should be in G1. There's some black panel here. I don't know if you remember if that's actually on the original toy. It's much more cleaner here. It's not all that. There's more metallic, which is this matte gray. You can't really simulate silver truly on you know, cell shaded cartoons back in the day. And that's basically about it. I'm going to try to give a side profile view. I think they're both about as messy on the bottom in one way or another. You know, they're still hollow basically in the chest, what would be the chest area, but yeah. And then, yeah. And this is a piece that you have to add on. It's just an extra piece you just press and snap on, and you can't mess it up. I mean, you can just tell which surface is the one that matches here, but then also there's a shape here. You see how this has the way the holes are, and especially these parts, you see how it's smaller here and it's thicker here versus this one's more it's different. It's reverse, I guess. So you can't really mess up the order and where you place them. Once they're on, that's it. It's funny, they just could not squeeze this into the box with the packaging with these already attached or molded in. They had to separate it. It's not adding that much more, but apparently just enough. So we're going to go into transformation. We'll see if I do this. I should, so you can see the comparison. I wish I could zoom out more, but anyways, first just remove the wings. I only did this once, so hopefully I remember. And you'll notice that also that for some reason they used, I believe, imagine this is all originally a transparent part. I should hold it up to the light. Yeah, you can kind of see through this. So originally it was all transparent, and then they painted it blue. And let's see, I think you finish off with the wings, so I think you'll pop these back first, because when you put these on, you flip this wing down. These have to be out of the way, otherwise if they're down, this part of it will be kind of blocking this from coming down and locking into place here. So this is actually the last thing, and also probably this is the last thing, and then you flip these down. So get those out of the way, and then you can pop these out from here. And when I flip this over, if I'm not mistaken, hopefully I can do that correctly. Oh, there we go. And there we go. And this should just flip back over like this on the back, and these should slot in. I don't know if they should go in now, but I'll just put them in here. But look, see, there's a slot down here, so you just put them in there. And that goes there. And then I think you can kind of keep it like this, but let's see, you just have to wiggle this thing loose a bit to undo that. Sorry, so undo this back part and flip this, and it kind of goes down here and kind of goes up. Like flip this, sorry, keep going out of camera, and then you go up a little bit. This kind of fits in there a bit out of the way, I guess that's how I would describe that. There's no part that locks into it, this kind of goes there. And then you can basically start to separate the legs. And it's funny, the retraction and the extension of the legs to form the jet motor, going between that and robot, it's very little difference. You'll see what I mean. And then you can just put the feet down. These can also tend to, again, if you don't, the first time I moved these, this thing just popped off. Luckily they're easy to pop back in. And let's see here. I believe I pull these back open, and you just extend, watch this. See what the legs are, and you just pull them out like that, so then you can get this knee out. And you can see the difference from where it was and wasn't. It's not a huge difference, but it's just what you need to do to get this down into fighter form. And then just kind of pull that out like that, and then just close this back up on the back of the legs. And there's your legs basically. And you could, if you're going to keep it in this configuration, I think they have it, which if you want to keep the wings on the legs, you just rotate these things kind of back up like so. I think there's like a little dot here where there's like a piece inside here that it kind of fits right into. and so it kind of holds its position like that. And so if you don't want to move, this is kind of more like the old G1 toy. You know, they kept the legs, the wings on the legs. And let's see here. I think what needs to kind of done first. I think this comes middle. So I think I basically need to push these parts. Pull this apart right here. Just pull it out. Here comes the head. And I think I can start to pull this back here and just put this in the back. I think it'll be something like that. I forget exactly. And then this part separates, and I guess you can open it up like this. And then you can pop these guys out from here. Hang on a second. Let me see if I can keep going here, at least get into robot mode. So open that up, open these up, and then these pieces, like this one popped off when I was messing with it. They just moved down to form the side of the hips, I guess. And then you see this part is the way you have to slide this piece in later, but you just rotate the arms out like this. And then I guess I can get the hands to pop open and get them out right now. Close them up and then do the same over here. Just pop these open, flip them out, close. And then this should go back down. Well, actually, I think I need to have this open so that you can rotate this back down through here, like this. And then you need to just basically, it's kind of tricky. You gotta, trying to remember how to do this. Okay, I gotta find a way to drop this down lower because obviously his head's sticking way up and his torso sticking up way up higher than it should be. Need fiddle with this a little bit. Maybe I pushed it through too fast. Hang on. Okay, here we go. So this goes down here like that. And then this should somehow push. Oh, that's right. It fits in between here. It doesn't go stick out. So just push this down so it gets more situated down lower. And then sort of gets a little bit fiddly. So this cone gets hidden inside here, but you got to break this back open to get it to fit. And then this thing here will slide onto, there's like a tab right there. You see that? And it just kind of go in like this. And hopefully it can demonstrate out in front and then kind of slide it back like that. Then it'll interlock with that. And then, right, and then, so that's connected to the bottom part. And then I need to break this down. Actually, wait, it's not hooked on yet. It's a bit more fiddly than, yeah, just should push it in down there. And then these should interlock on the side here. Just put it down. And they kind of hold the side of the arms like this, if I'm not mistaken. And then you can twist, yeah, so that way you twist without it falling apart. I think it's like that. And then put the blasters, these cannons back on the arms. And you should be done like this. There you go, and then these can pivot a little bit. and go out. And there you go. Basically, this light back in front here, sorry. And there you go. More or less. All right, I gotta go up for dinner. So let me come back and finish this. Okay. Hopefully I edited out the screaming and yelling that was at the end of the last clip that I recorded before putting it all together. But here we go. This is, I believe, everything put together correctly. It's basically up back here. And you just have a little break here to fit the nose cone, the nose of the jet mode in there. And the nose, and there you go. It looks pretty good. I should compare him to this guy. Maybe should I transform him on screen too, just to show. Okay, so should take these off. This way, should compare how easy or difficult, like how they transform. I'm just trying to do this from memory. Just did this the other day. I think. Let's see. These fold down. Trying to remember what goes last on this thing. Okay, there you go. These fold down like that, and they flip back up. And these should basically, these I think will rotate forward later, but basically pull the legs out. There's definitely a lot more extension. You can see that from this to this. There's definitely a lot more leg extension there compared to the other one. Let's see, I think these should go, yeah, there's a point inside here that mounts into the knees. Split the legs up, I think. There you go. Get the feet open, so they split out like this. So definitely a different look to the feet. And then these should just aim forward. Like that, basically be flush with the feet on the bottom. And then what happens next? I think this opens up here. Basically, you need to pull this out and open. This is the thing, this is the way this connects. I never really liked that because this feels kind of, I don't know why, it didn't look like it's the best fit. So anyways, you open it up. It's actually a bit easier to transform, so you don't fold the hands away. Well, let's see, do this kind of thing to open it up. Trying to remember here. It should open, I think this way. Gotta get there you go, like that. And then pull this piece out like that, and then close up the arms like that. This up, so extend. I don't know if I'm doing it right order, but it should basically end up in the completed form. It should be about right. And you flip, pretty sure you flip this down, yeah, and you're gonna probably want to flip this around, open up, pop the head open somewhere. Something backwards here. I should just pull open. There you go. Just pull it out like that. And so yeah, so that bottom part is basically this piece that connects, and there's no way to separate that. But then basically this fits right through the back here like so. Put the legs down, and pull the chest back down. This has to go down to the middle here like that, and then you just get these to lock in like that. So I always thought this kind of weird way it fits, and it feels like there's a gap, and that's always been a little niggle. But hold on a second. I got to make sure this arm was on the inside so that it can lock the armpit in, I guess. Hang on. There we go. So just move this in like that. So then this can grab a hold of it like it did on that side. And as far as what you can do with this in the back, at least you can kind of, well, here, let's put guns back on. They mount almost the same place, a little bit higher on the small, actually on the shoulder than on the, this is closer to the elbow joint, which kind of how it's, I think it's supposed to be like on the G1s in a cartoon, mounted more like kind of in the middle of the arm rather than up at the shoulders, but it kind of works, and there you go. I think that's basically it. Comparison. And he definitely stands taller. You can't sort of tell already. This overall height is about the same, but the head, you know, these are much longer. As you can see, these air intakes compared. So that's what the extra height is for this, but then the head is actually higher too up here. And so there's that. But comparable, not too bad in difference in size. You can see how the back compares. So if you want to make it look like that, you can, but when I was saying this is a bit of a parts form, is that, well, if you really want this to look like a G1 like cartoon, they didn't have wings on the legs. You put them back here. In fact, if anything, you should probably leave them off. You should be able to see just the wings, not kind of like a double pair of wings, but this is how you're supposed to install these out of the way, basically on the back. Smart to mount these into, like so. Push that in. Let's just try to line it up about there. And it's not, I mean, it is what it is in the back. You compare it to this, it's better. That's one thing I didn't like, is how the canopy and the front of the cockpit and the nose hangs off on the outside, where this is much cleaner. That they at least, I mean, yeah, split open, but at least they fit it within something and doesn't stick out as far as that. But you know, this is not exactly super clean, but it's so, you know, it is what it is. I think the way these legs look like the G1, just the way I wouldn't say they have bell bottoms, but they kind of flare out on the bottom towards the feet, if you notice in the cartoons, and that's how it should look like actually. And you can get the ankle kind of pivot bends right there, so you can stretch them out. This one you can't twist the hands. This one you actually can. You can see you can rotate them a bit. Both of them, they can basically fit the guns in the hands, but you know, they never really hold their own. These cannons on their hands are just mounted on the arms. You can do the waist rotation here, right? And this one cannot, just the way it's designed is all fixed. Definitely a difference is in, well, I can get to that in a second. The wings are one other thing. It's like, get some decent posability, but then the thing is, these are fairly fixed. They don't angle back, really. No, not really. Well, they can go back like this a little bit, but you want them to be secured in the back like that, and so they can't actually angle out back like that. That would have been nice, I think, just to give it a little bit, doesn't look so flat in the back, just give it a little angle. Which is nice with this, is that you can angle these back a little bit like this, or all the way if you want, but that's probably too much. I would probably, normally I would have it angled about like this, just to give it a little bit more just outwards, and gives a little bit more range for you to pose with the arms, so that it may not hit the back of the wings, as this is probably likely to do, as you can see already. So there's that. I think, again, the front looks more accurate to the G1 overall, but then this area, because this has this extra piece here that, zoom up a bit, this has this extra piece here that it's not supposed to be there. It's supposed to see more just open canopy. But, you know, definitely there's a difference in the details. This one's much more, they call it greebling, just all these little things. And some of these things differ between these seekers, like the jet, versus the conehead ones, the other three at least. They have different some different designs and stuff. But that's other than that, they're basically the same components. You know, there's nothing else really physically different, like other than the details and the texture work. This kind of looks more G1 because you can see like the toys. I remember that this I consider them kind of almost like thrusters, like this thing that comes off of the front of the shins. I remember that being on the old G1 toys. That it's not so prominent. There's kind of a hint of that just by these colors, but that never really showed up in the cartoon. You can twist the legs out like this, and all sorts of posability. Arms are pretty good too, to move in various directions. The heads can kind of angle and turn left and right, just as this can. In fact, I think this one has a little bit more ability to even do a slight head cock to the left and right, versus this. Actually, a little bit you can, but it's tighter on the bottom of the head, where it's sitting. There's a little bit more space there, so you can do a little bit more. But you can see this was much quicker and more straightforward, in my opinion, versus this. I think I see a couple parts popped. I mean, likely this could, just the way this is. There's just a way that this had popped out before. If you push it back too far, or again twist it the wrong way, it can pop off the joint here, as well as these pieces right in here in the whip, or the waist or the hip area, right inside here. I've had that pop off. Small, but it's easy to put back on. There's no crotch piece that lifts up, so then you can only get the leg up so much to the front, and also in the back too, you blocked a bit. Versus this one, yeah, you can't go too far back either, but at least if you want to kick forward, you can lift this up a bit and get more forward movement. And they can both basically split up pretty wide on the sides. This one, the arm can pivot a bit right here. You can see, you can get a little bit, you want it to change the hand to be more like this under the cannon, you can. You have that option with this one as opposed to this. Yeah, but actually it does twist the whole, you see, like that. You can do some stuff with that. But this is how it should be. I think it's, again, closely mounted to the elbow, and the cannon's usually on the back side of the arm or the wrist, versus it's never really on the front of this part or such. And yeah, and you can see the head mold, sculpt, you see them. And this has more metallic. Both do have the red eyes. You can see that, which it should be. This is not a bad head sculpt. Has just a tiny bit of detail, I would say, in just the area around the helmet, I guess, the face, the black area, down by the side of the cheeks and up at the top of the helmet, and not so much in the back. Oh, you know what? I just realized this is transparent. Is there light piping? Oh, there is. I don't know if anyone ever mentioned that. I don't remember that in the videos, but that's kind of neat. It works okay. Let me see if I have a flashlight. I don't have a regular white flashlight, but maybe this would do. But you can see, if you did have a white light, it should show red through the back. Or if he's standing in, you can kind of see it here, actually. See? Yeah, see? There you go. His eyes glow. That's cool. I like that. So that's something you don't get from this. Anyways, overall, I think this is definitely, it costs more. I think these were in the 20s, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe there's just somewhere under 30, but this is definitely about $10 more than this one. and you can see the pros and cons. I like the fact you can make this more G1, slightly more posability, and yeah, I think that's the main selling point, is that he looks more G1 accurate versus this is G1 inspired. It's very close. I mean, it's still pretty good, but definitely there's way more detail than needs to be. But it's not that it's bad, it's just different. Again, the coloring is, this is definitely more true to that blue. It's more like a solid medium blue that I think Thundercracker is known for. This one, if you can actually see it in its true color, I might have to tweak the color balance. This is definitely a bit more on the turquoise. There's definitely some green in it, so I don't think it looks quite as good in that sense. But what do you guys think? I'm definitely a fan of this, as you know, and that's why I'm sticking with this. And I'm selling my War for Cybertron versions of the Seekers so I can clear out the space to start making room for this. Skywarp has been pre-ordered. He's coming up next. When does that kind of come out? Probably around summer, I think. So the pre-order's a little bit ahead, but who knows? This one was out a few months. It's supposed to be in March, and I'm doing this in March, but I actually got it about almost 2 months earlier in January, if I'm not mistaken. So who knows? Hopefully Skyward will be coming sooner than later, but we shall see. But in the meantime, got to make some space, and so these for a fair price. This is a set with Skywarp. I think it was a special one. At least at the time, you can only get this with Skywarp, certain color and configuration. They came in a 2-pack. I don't remember where they're from. Was it a Target exclusive or something? I don't know. But I think it was kind of hard to get before, because they have to sell it like that. And again, I think there's only certain places that they were sold at to be able to get them. I think there's been other sets that come out I've seen, and they tweak the colors. I think they recently redid one of him with the with reflector, the camera, which is pretty cool. But and then they recolored him. I think he might look closer to that, but basically they're still using this old mold, even though they just put this out. So it's kind of weird how they have two simultaneous versions, an older and definitely a newer version. But that whole set is about $150 or $160. If you already have reflector, you don't really need reflector, and it's kind of expensive just to get Thundercracker if you weren't able to get them before. I think I saw, maybe, I could be wrong, but I think they made a Skywarp version too, like another pack, but it came with Insecticons, and they were repainted supposedly to look more G1-ish, but then I forget how much that was, and it was a Skywarp. I think it was with Skywarp, but anyways, I'm sure it's going to cost more than you want. So yeah, but this one has to be sold with Skyward because the instruction manual has both of them on there, so it should be a set. The rest of them, Starscream separate, Thrust, Sturge, and Ramjet. The other 3 Conehead versions, those would be sold separately too. Or as you see my listing on eBay, you can. I guess if you really want all of them, maybe I can work out something to make it slightly less expensive. It's not going to be expensive anyways. I'm thinking a fair price, given that they are complete, they work, there's no real damage, as far as I can tell. It's just what they look like in the photos online, which I should get up later tonight. It should be fine. They all work. They were in storage for the longest time. I only brought them out not all that long ago, and finally unboxed them and just quickly transformed them once, or prior to this, once from robot as it came into a jet, check it out, then just transform them back into a robot, and then I just posed them and put them in the display case, and that's it. They've been just in there all that time. For the last 2 or 3 months, I guess, is what I did. I did it earlier this year, I think, or was it late last year? I can't even remember, but fairly recently. So anyways, smoke free, away from sunlight, so they're all good, complete. with the instructions. No original packaging. I had to get rid of that. I have no space for it. But otherwise, if you want a good set, they're basically going to be the set with. They're basically $20 each. I'll take care of shipping. I think that's a fair price, considering some of them might be harder to get. And this one with Stars Skywalk will be, obviously it will be double that, because you get two 40, but still I think that's a fair value for the style of Seekers. And you know, they definitely still have their merits. I think they look pretty good in both forms, alt mode, jet mode, and robot. This is definitely feels less fitly than the new ones. The new ones just have a bit more parts that can just kind of more easily come loose, and again, it feels more parts for me, because, well, if you want it to look to you, you got to remove this off and put it into the back. Versus this one, everything basically stays connected, save that of the cannon. You got to move it from the wings to here, but I guess when you're transforming, you could basically leave it on until the very last moment and just pop it off and put it there. So it's not like it would necessarily just hang around somewhere while you're transforming it for very long. But yeah, so mostly about this. I think this is pretty good. Too bad prices for all these things have been going up, but it's within reason for me. You know, what is these now? I think I got these for $35, maybe $40, but I'm pretty sure it's under that. So I think I want to say it was 35 or 37, somewhere around there. Mid to upper $30 range, just shy of 40. And but it's for something like this, I think it's worth it. As you really like Transformers, especially G1, and you like the more accurate animation, as well as, I guess, they look basically the same, almost the same as in the comic books, which I used to collect and own many. This is the way to go, I think, without spending a lot more on, say, the much larger masterpiece versions, which are very cool, but I can't afford to spend like 100 plus at least on those, and I just no longer have that much space for the really big, nice big ones, though, unfortunately. But these are cool. Thanks for watching. Later.